Good evening, my name is Adam Jasser. We're going face to face with TVP World Editor-in-Chief Michał Broniatowski, who will look into his crystal ball to tell us if 2026 is going to be any better than the year ending as we speak. Michał, welcome.
Thank you. I'm holding my
Crystal ball.
It's not very much crystal, but...
Okay, well, to warm you up, I thought I will ask you to see what Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, offered as her cheerful assessment of where we stand.
The end of 2025 has been difficult for all of us. Don't worry, because next year will be much worse.
So judging from... she was joking, but...
Oh, was she?
Yes, I think she was. But judging from your performance last time we spoke, doom and gloom, so...
So, you know, people who are in the know are saying the same thing. Whether they joke or not...
People who are in the know, so are you implying you're in the know?
No, she is in the know.
Ah, okay.
I am only using my crystal ball.
All right. So, maybe on a slightly more serious note, do you see any chance of peace in Ukraine 2026?
As long as the peace efforts are limited to meetings between the three presidents, but never together. Mm-hmm. The three presidents, I mean Trump, Putin, and Zelensky. As long as every meeting with Zelensky is preceded by Putin phoning 2 hours ahead of it, we will not see any end of hostility. And the only way is to keep fighting and get more weapons to not only defend against Russia, but to push it away at least a few kilometers, because, you know, now President Putin, speaking to his generals, boasted that he managed to, that the army managed to capture during this year 300 of villages and small towns. It's, you know, a total of about 20 kilometers. At the expense of hundreds of thousands eliminated soldiers. It cannot continue, and it will not continue, definitely, if Ukraine is capable of counteracting even stronger.
Yeah, but that's an if. I wanted to play another clip regarding the peace negotiations, these negotiations in Florida.
In your conversation with President Putin, did you discuss what responsibility Russia will have for any kind of reconstruction of Ukraine post an agreement?
I did. They're going to be helping. Russia's going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed.
So obviously President Zelensky not entirely convinced. But, you know, a lot of commentators seize on comments from Trump, like the one we just heard, to say that Trump ignores reality and just repeats what Putin tells him. But some disagree. For example, Marcin Przydacz, who is the foreign policy advisor to the Polish president, Mr. Nawrocki, who is close to Mr. Trump, he says that Trump and his negotiators are painfully aware of the reality and they understand Russia, but they just concentrate on trying to win concessions from Putin. So Trump is avoiding saying anything that could annoy Putin, or if he wants to be sympathetic in order to bring him in. What do you say to that?
You know, it's a lot of goodwill towards President Trump. There are two possibilities when he says that Russia wishes well to Ukraine. Either he's misinformed, or he's informed but playing fool, because...
But the point is that this doesn't necessarily mean anything.
It means a lot, offending publicly the president of Ukraine, who is standing by and nearby, and you know, forcing him to smile, to laugh at the president of the.
Yeah, but it outrages you. But you know, maybe for some other people, it's not so outrageous. And in Ukraine, we had a number of guests this week commenting on this, and they said, well, it doesn't really matter because we're used to the fact that Trump says different things.
You know, this is just an indicator of what he thinks about this whole process. When you say that he's trying to lure Putin into concessions, at the same time he's forcing Zelensky to concessions. You know, it's not equal treatment. If not, stop the war where it is. He will probably also agree for more concessions on the side of Ukraine, territorial concessions for Putin. But we are not talking about a territory in which Ukrainians could give up this, because actually this part of Donetsk region is hilly, so it's and full of good concrete defenses built by Ukraine. If they give it up, then there is only a long...
but both presidents admitted that this issue remained unresolved, and Zelensky and others from the Ukrainian leadership said, this is a non-starter. Nevertheless, both presidents said progress was made. So how do you?
I don't know what progress. This is diplomatic talk after every meeting, which brought nothing.
There were worse meetings than that.
But so what? Okay. At this meeting, they at least didn't shout at Zelensky.
Right. Maybe because J.D. Vance wasn't there.
Yes. He didn't kill him. Bravo.
Okay. But at the same time, it seems many in Putin's inner circle, particularly the business people around him who take part in these negotiations and actually lead the negotiations, notice that Lavrov is absent, the foreign minister is absent from these negotiations. It's mostly business people. Just like on the Trump side, the business people are discussing this deal. And, they seem to be arguing that it's time for peace also for Russia, because Russia is running out of resources. There is a BBC report this week saying Putin's attempt to take more territory in eastern Ukraine has led to soaring casualties. So they're saying, there is some pressure on Putin as well to settle from his own people. And, this is what even some Ukrainians who normally downplay Putin's readiness for serious peace are saying. And this is what General Budanov, head of intelligence, Ukrainian intelligence, had to say about this.
Since late spring, Russia has entered a stable economic recession. It's not a collapse yet, but the problems are mounting. Look at Russia's 2026 budget. It would be catastrophic for any country. All its social programs are being cut. The only thing left is defense spending. The decisions already taken are unpopular, painful and difficult. Their 2026 budget allocates 46% to war. No country can develop or move forward normally when nearly half of its budget is spent on war. It's simply impossible.
So if you add to this the fact that the oil price is tanking, so Russian revenues are down, there is only so much magical thinking Putin can do.
If it were true, I would be as happy as you would be. But you better prepare for something worse, I think, because the talk about Russia collapsing economically has been around for the last 4 years. Immediately after they started the war, everybody was saying, that they cannot afford it because they are too weak a country. And they survive. Of course, this also means even deeper dependence on China support and so on and so on. But I think that the main argument will be military might on the front and not any other arguments, even if business people around Putin himself, also a main businessman, are pushing.
Oh, he's a racketeer rather than a businessman.
In Russia, it's...
Okay, it's the same. But if you're so sure of Russia's invincibility, then...
I'm not sure about Russia's invincibility. I'm sure about Russia being intransigent. It doesn't mean that they are invincible. That's what I am proposing.
But there are no takers. There are no takers. Trump is not going to... it's painfully clear at this stage that the US is not going to exert any greater pressure on Russia than...
But we now have Europe getting its act together.
Oh, now you're saying Europe is getting its act together. Last week you were arguing Europe was falling apart.
Europe is, Europe at least managed to give some money to it. And
last week you said this was a disaster.
It was a disaster, political disaster.
Ah, I see. All right. Well, there is some subtlety I'm missing here.
Yes, you miss the subtlety of giving money and not giving money. There will be money.
You missed that subtlety when you were complaining about the EU last time.
No, the problem is that taking this blocked Russian assets to support Ukraine and its
it was a better solution.
This is a solution, and this is a right thing to do, rather than
okay, so you made a moral assessment, but now you're talking about the war effort in Ukraine, and you're saying the Europeans are stepping up.
Yes.
What evidence have you got of that?
Of what?
Of Europe stepping up to help Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine,
win the war.
Europe is collecting money all the time more. It has money as the result to buy American weapons. It's also increasing its war shield properly. The year 2024 saw the largest since World War II growth in military spending in the world, and especially in Europe. We don't know yet the figures for 2025, but probably it'll be similar. And there is main thing that Europe is convinced that finally convinced, or at least majority of Europeans are convinced that Ukraine is fighting in our defense. And this is a good sign. And behavior of Mr. Trump is also forcing Europe to get together in defense.
But all the European leaders are also acknowledging that without U.S. involvement, military involvement, intelligence sharing...
I know, but if you have to live without it, 3 years ago, it was unimaginable. Today, I think without American support, Europe will, and Ukraine together with Europe, will be able to defend at least itself against Russians.
You're almost saying, and correct me if I'm reading you wrongly, but you're almost saying that Ukraine would be better off without Trump trying to negotiate peace.
Trump is indispensable here, but if he continues being convinced that Russia is prepared to act in the interest of Ukraine, he won't be helpful. As long as he is there and there is a dialogue, fine. But it may well happen that one day he will simply say, if you don't take that, we cut everything.
Right. Okay, and would then be the right time for Ukraine to accept whatever terms there are? Just, like Finland had to do in 1939, in 1945, at the end of the war, when they had to cede territory, they had to accept some restrictions on their freedom, but at the end of the day, they remained sovereign and part of the Western world.
After 80 years, Finland is in NATO.
Well, here you go. So maybe
yes, but
we need a pause to fight another day.
I think that slight Finland-like solution is unavoidable. But Finland's solution was that they stopped on a front line, and the Soviet Union didn't demand anything more. Here,
it took a huge chunk of
military, but they took it. But they didn't demand anything more. Here, they want to take the heavily defended territory of Ukraine. Without this territory, Ukraine is completely defenseless.
Okay, so let's move to Europe. You already mentioned some positive things, and I'm surprised that you're saying this after last week you gave us a full-throated criticism of the European Union. So
I was angry then.
You were angry, okay. But, to be fair, I've very often find it surprising that people who believe in the European project, who believe the European Union is a force for good and peace and prosperity and security on the continent, they very often criticize Europe and the European Union more than the Eurosceptics. So I'm just thinking that sometimes the Europhiles, and I include you in those numbers, are actually helping the Eurosceptics fuel their narrative.
I acknowledge, and I'm proud of being part of this, of the project which you called peace and prosperity. The problem is that European Union must become a security project. Security in terms of being strong enough to defend and stop the aggression. It was not the reason to create the European Union. And now Europe, the members of the Union.
Well, it was implicit in the first Treaty of Rome. It was implicit because it came right after the Second World War.
Yes, but they already.
And the idea was to cooperate, to lay the foundation for cooperation between Germany, France, and some other countries to prevent another war. So the security component was always there.
Yes, but there was a talk of preventing another war, but Europe did nothing. And also, the Union has no the Union has no influence on military behavior of their members.
Well, hold on a second. It was the British, it was the Germans, it was the Americans who were saying the EU should not stride into defense because we have NATO.
Exactly. Now we don't have NATO.
Well, we still do.
We are, yes, Article 5-ish, I would say.
Okay. NATO Secretary General Rutte last week said, those who think America is out of NATO are deeply mistaken.
I wish him good. If he is right, I'll be more than happy, but I'm afraid that you have to look on the other side of this coin.
Okay, but on the good side in Europe, a huge dramatic change on German attitudes to Russia, huge rearmament programs everywhere in Europe. You mentioned that. Maybe even the car industry is going to be saved that way because some of these engineers can move to factories producing tanks and drones. And the EU is spending hundreds of billions on defense. There are EU funds, and we're not talking about few billion here and there. We're talking about hundreds. So Europe is on the move.
It is. That's why I'm saying that.
But this is completely different from what you were saying last week. I'm sorry I keep repeating this, but I'm just astonished.
No, it is not.
Okay. I wasn't listening carefully, right?
Yes. Europe as a union is still stumbling and from time to time disappointing people who are hoping for Europe to stand united against the threat from Russia, and at the same time being all the time disappointed by Mr. Trump. It is starting to
So
build.
Trump again as a catalyst of positive change. Michał.
Exactly.
All right.
Unluckily.
There's just one more issue.
Can you imagine
before
this Zeitenwende in Germany without this?
Correct. So finally, you're saying something positive about President Trump, and I salute you for it. There's one more issue I want to raise before we finish. Namely, it seems that whereas Europe has made a decision on Russia and is bolstering its defenses and all of that we just discussed, it still hasn't got an idea how to deal with China. Or does it?
No. It doesn't, we see this problem on our eyes. The first time since long time, China is having exercises with real weapons.
Well, your favorite President Trump just said that they keep having these drills and it doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, if it doesn't matter, then fine. But
it's not Europe's problem.
Let's use it as a reminder.
Europe's problem is mostly economic.
Of course. If there is a war and the production on Taiwan, which produces 90% of
even if
chips,
there is no war, there is a huge problem with China in Europe because China is exporting everything it cannot export to the US to Europe, destroying Europe's industrial base. This seems to me the main challenge. apart from the fact that it supports Russia?
Well, you know, China is a problem in any case.
Okay.
But if they may decide for a war on Taiwan because they see lack of decisiveness of Europe, among other things.
So you're now blaming Europe for...
I am not blaming Europe. I am just saying what is ahead of us in the next year, because China may be encouraged by this prolonged discussions
about Ukraine.
Exactly.
We have to finish here, Michał. Well, I'm not entirely sure you managed to cheer our viewers up with your outlook, but thank you anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for not thinking.
On my part, despite our editor-in-chief attempt to spoil the party on New Year's Eve, I wish all our viewers, particularly those in Ukraine, a peaceful and prosperous 2026. As the saying goes, there is sunshine after rain, and next year may yet surprise us on the positive. Thank you for watching TVP World, and we promise to keep delivering quality news and analysis day in, day out. Good night.